Yeah, so I think I was 11 when I found out my dad was gay. And then I took Vicodin. And at that moment, I knew that I never had to take ADHD medication ever again because I'd found my new lust. And
Welcome to Recovery Inspired Hope, where your testimonies give others courage to speak out about addiction and stomp out stigma. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on everything social, #jamietall.
Welcome to Recovery Inspired Hope, and I have got something for you guys today. My new favorite content creator, recovery advocate, Rob Meredith, is here to tell us about his experience, where he found strength, and how he found hope on his recovery journey. Rob, thank you so much for joining us and coming on here and talking to us.
oh yeah, I mean, I'm blessed to just be here, seriously.
Rob, the way that you do content and the humor that you bring into the recovery community is just like such a huge ray of sunshine. Like your stuff, like it's real, it's authentic. You can tell you're speaking from your heart. And then you have a beautiful daughter, yes?
Yeah, she's 2, Skylar. Yeah.
And just bringing in the point of view of dads in recovery. You know what I mean? Like that's something, there's just not that many people who are willing to speak out about the real raw things like you are. So thank you so much, and for supporting multiple pathways and for everything that you do, your hard work in our recovery community. So we want to get to know all about Rob. So Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? How old are you?
I lived kind of all over the place, northern side. So from Pennsylvania to Delaware to Maryland. I spent from the age of 21 to the time I moved to Florida and Baltimore. That's where I was originally born and kind of raised most of my life there. My addiction kind of took off in, I would say, Delaware after I moved out of Pennsylvania. I went to a school called Mount Pleasant High School right outside of Wilmington, and it was like they had a higher dropout rate than success rate. And I was kind of already headed that way. I mean, I was smoking weed and drinking and stuff before I even got there, but it just took off from there. I had been on ADHD medicine my whole life, so I decided to come off of that at a young age, and that probably wasn't the best bet. And then I came to Florida when I was 27, and now I'm 32. So
do you think that the fact that you were on ADHD medicine had anything to do with you looking for a way to change the way you feel with drugs?
Yeah, I think it's 90% of the reason why I used, because when I went through some of my work on myself, I had to take a look back when it all began. And for me, it all began as a child because I used to tell my mom that I didn't like who I was as a person without my medication. So that's a huge red flag for me. That's the number one reason why most people use drugs. I know that's the number one reason why I used drugs, was I didn't like who I was and I wanted to become somebody different. And I had to use drugs to become that person because I didn't have it in me to be that person. So I would say that's 90% of the reason. And then the other 10% is the trauma that comes along with that. And other reasons fall into that trauma, unresolved trauma, not dealt with properly, you know, hiding from myself and yeah, all of that.
Did you have anything go on like as a child that was like really hard for you?
Yeah, so I think I was 11 when I found out my dad was gay. And I found out, I'll never forget it. Obviously, it was traumatic. But now is like, you know, I'm well over that. But when I found out, me and my mom were living in my grandmom's basement in Pennsylvania, and we were watching a Lifetime movie, and the guy got caught cheating on the wife with a guy. And I looked at my mom and I said, "Is my dad gay?" And the reason why I asked was because the guy that he'd been with, still is with to this day, been together since I was little, used to sleep over. But when I was a kid, I was innocent, so I used to think like, I have friends sleep over, you know, like there's no thought process behind that. Like, oh yeah, I have friends sleep over too, you know. And that led me to trying something with another kid, because my whole life I was told by my mom, which my mother's a great mother. She has my back 110% and always has, but she told me that I was exactly like my father. So I ran from the fact that I tried something with another kid, another boy at that age, which most guys my age, well, guys back then did at that age. And I ran from that because I didn't want to be gay, because I wasn't, you know, and I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want to be made fun of. So I literally became a whole nother person, so people would never think or suspect it, you know, suspect it, yeah. Would ever like guess that I was, you know, gay, or that my dad was gay. And that led to a lot of behavioral problems. If somebody said something about my parents, my mom or my dad, and this is before drugs, somebody were to say anything about them, I would freak out. I would flip out, which led me to going into the Greens program, which is a behavioral program for kids. And I was in that for like a year. So until I went to the next grade. Yeah.
Wow. And that is a lot for just a young child, the understanding of it all, you know. So after that, you said you moved to Delaware and you were in high school and kind of just experimenting with drugs, right? Doing like the high school kind of fun thing, smoke weed, drink alcohol, right?
Yeah.
Just like nothing major. When did things start to escalate?
So when I moved to Delaware, I was kind of like a lone wolf for a while, and then I started fitting in with everybody that was smoking weed and skipping class. And then I found out that I could sell my Concerta and Adderall. And at the same time, I found Vicodin in my cabinet at my house. So I started selling Vicodin because people were asking me if I had them, because I was already selling Concerta and Adderall, and that's what made me stop taking my medication. And then I took Vicodin. And at that moment, I knew that I never had to take ADHD medication ever again, because I'd found my new lust. And, you know, that's really when things started kind of escalating pretty fast. And I dropped out at 10th grade. I skipped more days than I attend than in the year. Like than you could attend in a year. The dean called me and my mom in because I'd missed like 160 days of school, and we weren't even halfway through the year. So that was pretty much every day, because I left. I only went into school to sell cigarettes, Concerta, Vicodin, or Perks if I had them. And then I would leave after first lunch, because by that time I had sold enough to where like I was like, all right, I'm good. Nobody's buying anymore anyway. So I would just walk right out the front door, and I would dare someone to stop me. And that's kind of how the school was. You know, I remember we would just post up outside of this one bathroom, and I hung out with these other two dudes that sold weed and other things. And, you know, we were bringing guns into school, because not to like harm anybody, but like people got shot in my school, you know, and there was different like little cliques and gangs, and there was always fights, and it wasn't really that great of a school, nor controlled. And there was a lot of drugs going through the school, you know. They separated the school. The kids that were good in school, they had them on the other side of the school. And then most of the kids, like me, that were bad, we were in the basement or on the other side of the wing. You know, I was in special ed my whole life. So when I switched from Pennsylvania school system to Delaware school system, I was completely lost in sauce because I didn't have a special ed teacher to help me, you know.
Sounds like you caught like a business degree while you were in there as well.
Yeah.
Learning how to start your own pharmaceutical company in there.
I did. Well, I knew I was like, I could grow a beard at a young age. So in high school, so I was able to go into the Exxon and the guy would sell me a pack of cigarettes, no problem, because he knew I was buying 2 packs of Newport 100s every single day and buying blunts and wraps and whatever throughout the day. So he didn't really care if I was old enough or not, I guess. I don't know. Back then it was different. It wasn't as regulated. Things were easier, you know. As long as you had a beard, you were good.
Right. So when did you make a decision that you wanted to do something different?
I've made that decision a lot of different times. This last time, I wasn't even ready to get clean. I didn't want to get clean. I didn't think I'd ever want to be clean. It was the first time I ever went to treatment and didn't tell myself that this is it, I'm done. It seemed like every time I told myself, I would let myself down. So this time I was like, I'm not going to tell myself, because if I do, I'm going to put expectations on myself and I'm not going to meet it. And I didn't think of it like that then. Pretty much how I thought of it was like, I'm not going to tell myself this because I don't want to let myself down. It was that simple. And like that simple of like a saying. It wasn't simple at all. I went to treatment because my mom bought me an insurance policy out of the state of Pennsylvania, which got me into Florida. And I had only went to state programs before that. And she bought me drugs for a week straight to convince me to even go to treatment. And she left her company, this little coffee shop she had, and let other people run it, which she had never done in 10 years. And she slept on my dad's couch with me and administered drugs to me every single day, heroin and cocaine. And
Wow.
for a week straight. Yeah. So like, who's going to say no to that? You know? And then when it came time to go, you know, I was crying, freaking out. I'd never left my family that far. I have a son too, which I've tried rekindling that relationship while in recovery, and it's just not there yet. I'm ready for whatever comes my way with that. Like, I'm ready to be there 110%. Like I get my daughter every weekend. You know, I love my son very much, but I know that when I'm involved, the mother is on a mental spiral, and I don't want that to affect him. So I see it better, and it affected me dearly because I would show up and she wouldn't allow me to see him, you know? So that just kept draining me. I fought for 2 years, took her to court multiple times. Nobody taught me the actual process on how to go about doing it. You know, now I just found out at 32 years old that I'm supposed to call the police when that doesn't happen, when they don't allow me, when she doesn't allow me to see him, you know, and then that's how you write the report. So when you go into court, they actually take legal action. Every time I would go in there, they would just say, well, you're not allowed to do that, ma'am. And I just felt like I was wasting my everything. I was just completely spiritual bankrupt. But yeah, so I've come to terms with the fact that, like, when he gets older, he'll have me for the rest of his life. When he's old enough to say, I want to be with my dad, shut up, mom, or I want to see my dad, or I want to meet my dad, and he calls me, I'm not going to say it's because of your mom. I'm not going to blame anything on her, you know. I'm not going to, you know, I'm just going to just be there for him. You know, I'm going to accept the fact that, like, I haven't been in his life in the past 3 years. Because right now I haven't been in his life in 3 years. And, you know, he's 7. I believe he's 7 or 8. I know he's 7 or 8. His birthday is the same as mine almost. This is September 5th and mine's September 20th. So.
Well, I think that's amazing that you actually have gone to the extent you have to fight to be with your children as a father. You know, I know that a lot of fathers get discouraged very easily, but it sounds like you really put 110% effort into seeing your children. So I commend you for that. Maybe, you know, you got that trait from your mom, because it sounds like your mom really fought for her son.
Yes, she did. I did. 100%. You know, I know what it's like to not really have a dad show up, you know, so I just never want that to happen to him. I never wanted kids. And this is for the reason why I didn't ever want kids, is because I know how much goes into having kids, you know, and some would say that's why you got to have kids. It's because you don't want kids, you know, but I mean, I now that I have my daughter and my son, but now that I have another child, I'm extremely grateful for not listening to myself and going against my fears and just, you know, accepting everything. Like, me and the mother of my daughter, we're not together, but me and her are best friends. And I still tell her I love her. She still tells, and we recently broke up, you know, and I don't cross that line of like, oh, well, we can have sexual whatever every once in a while. Like, no, that's not realistic. Right? Because like that's attached with emotional attachment and damage. So it's like, that would be really unhealthy to do that, and would cause a lot of drama and chaos in my life and her life, which would cause friction for Skylar. And I just keep her as like somebody that I will never give up on, somebody I'll always show up for first, you know, before anybody. And if that means I have to be single for the rest of my life, which I'm okay with, because I like thoroughly enjoy my time, which I didn't find that until I came around 5 years. You know, I didn't find that contentment, and that took a long time and a lot of processing and a lot of pain, and that took a lot of it happening by myself, like with me and God, right? Like that's where that kind of came from, and like getting up and showing up for myself, you know.
Yeah, and that whole like where it's just you and God, like it's very simple. Life gets very simple. Yeah. So I recently got married in October. My husband, thank you. My husband and I are he was a recovery advocate on social media. So was I. We ended up meeting. He's actually from Fort Myers. And so we ended up meeting, but I was single, you know, for like my whole recovery, like, cause I'll have 7 years on the 20th. And I was awesome. The first 5 years, it was just me and God. It was so peaceful. And then moving, getting in a relationship, having my husband move here, moving together. And it is a lot of work. Okay. It is so much work. Love my husband, love our family, but yeah, I remember when it was just me and God. It was very quiet. It was not messy. It was easy. Yeah. You know, so that's amazing that you have established that kind of foundation and everything. And because that relationship you built between you and God will help you when it is time for you to get married and all that fun stuff. So Rob, I know you have got some crazy stories from your life. Give us one of the craziest stories from your active addiction.
Dude, I don't know. Some of the crazy ones could be criminally, however you put that. But
don't get in trouble here.
There are some ones that are just a little too crazy to talk about, but nothing like I've never killed anybody or anything like that. But you know, God. It's hard to say. You know, there have been times where I was up for 3 days, 4 days, you know, just smoking crack and using heroin. And okay, so I remember this one time, I had to like say that to really remember one that really sticks with me forever, because my mother's involved in this one, of course. And, you know, I hadn't lived with my mom or her husband in years, since I was 18. So I was about 26 probably. It was like right before I got clean, not too long before. And I was in Delaware because, you know, I was like all over the place, really. I was like a gypsy. And my buddy that I was in recovery with before, who had like 6 years clean, was getting high. And he like had just extorted some guy for like 75 grand. So I would work all week and use Suboxone the whole week. And then I would like eat Xanax and stuff, just abuse everything, right? Like wasn't really ready for anything. And I would, you know, get high on the weekends. And that would involve me, a hotel bathroom, really, not even the whole room, crack and heroin. And I would get, you know, an 8-ball or whatever. So when he started getting high, he was getting like a lot, ounces of it. And I went up there, and before I even left, before Sunday came, around Sunday, we were already seeing shadow people. And like at the time, you know, they looked like real people because you see them out of the corner of your eye. So like we're outside of this motel. I'm in my boxers. He's in his boxers because I sweat when I'm smoking that shit, you know, and like using. Am I not allowed to cuss?
You can, yeah. You're
okay, all right. So like I try not to, but when I start thinking about those days, I start cussing. You know, I'm chasing this guy, this guy, right, around his truck with this baseball bat that's like this big. It's like one of those little Phillies baseball bats that you get from or wherever. Every baseball place has them, but and the guy's not there, and my buddy is chasing the other guy I seen that's across the street, and we're both in our boxers. He's fully covered in tattoos. I only had a couple at the time, but you know, we're outside of this place, and you know, we still didn't sleep. We tossed it up to like, all right, maybe they got away, or we're like seeing stuff, right? And I hadn't crossed that realm until that day. I had never crossed the realm of like seeing shadow people, right? And I don't know why, but I just never did. And I went home to my mom's, and he gave me an 8-ball to go home with on Sunday. And I'm like, oh my God, this usually takes me all weekend because I use heroin with it, you know? So I'm like, all right, bet, thanks. So I'm pulling off every 10 minutes off the road down a side road to smoke, and then go back on, back off. So this 2-hour drive took me 6 hours, probably. It must have been 6 hours. And like, I was the type of addict that like I hid my drugs in the taillight of my car, and then I'd pull off on the side of the highway and use right in the trunk in front of traffic. Like I'm like, if I get it done quick, the cops aren't, no, as long as the cop doesn't see me, it doesn't matter. I don't care, right? Who cares who sees me, what's going on, it doesn't matter. So like, and I'm like leaning in my trunk, whatever. I go home, I'm like, all right, I need to chill out, because that's how I came down. And I go to my mom's, and I'm sitting out back. It's nighttime. I'm sitting out back, she's up in bed, and I'm smoking. And I had looked through the glass, right? And I'd already been seeing shadow people the night before. So I look through the glass, and I see this figure of a woman just like standing in the glass, and there's this big curtain. So like it's dark, and it's already nighttime out, and it's like one of those big glass sliding doors. And I'm like freaked out, because I'm like terrified of ghosts, like really bad. It used to be really bad. Back then it was really, really bad. And that day it was extremely bad. And I run in the house, because I'm like, is my mom fucking with me, right? And I'm like, I go in, and the curtain's there, and I'm like, wait a minute, how's the curtain? She shut the, what's going on? And then I like walk around, there's a bathroom right outside, right in the living room. So you go around the corner, and there's a bathroom, and the light's on. And I'm like, she's fucking with me. She's fucking with me. I bang on the door, she doesn't answer. I'm like, Mom, I know you're messing with me. And she's got the door locked. And I just couldn't hear because like I'm in like this state of mind, this like psychosis where like just nothing real is actually in front of me and everything fake is. And I kicked the bathroom door in the bathroom, and she's in there and she freaks out. And honestly, I would say that I mean, I've had much more crazier scenarios than that where like people got hurt and things happened, and you know, and things that I had been charged with already had happened, you know, that I may have altered the truth a little bit about. And you know, but that one was probably the craziest for me because I was hallucinating and I kicked the door in on my mom, who I would kill somebody over if they ever did to. You know, like if anybody ever did that to my mom, like I would freak out, right? But like here I am, like completely disturbing her peace, breaking her bathroom door. And then that week I quit my job and I was already kicked out of the house again, of course. And I kicked their basement window in, which is this little square. I was like 140 pounds soaking wet. Right now I'm like 170. So I kicked the glass in and I climb in through the glass, and I knew that there was a broken TV downstairs. So I climb in, I grab the TV, I leave with the door unlocked. Or no, I got the TV out of the house, I locked the door so they wouldn't know that I was ever there. They didn't even know the TV was missing. And then I crawled back out of the window and stuffed this big piece of styrofoam that was already there in the glass. So yeah, all that happened within a week. I would probably say that's like the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, there's definitely more things that happened. You know, I've tried it. My dad's got gay friends. I've tried rubbing their feet for $50. They wouldn't do it. You know, like I just smoking crack, living in Baltimore City. Like they wouldn't let me sell. The guys wouldn't let me sell for them anymore because they knew I was strung out. You know, so I mean, there's all different types of stuff, but I would say that that's probably my most recent, towards the end, crazy story. You know.
Yeah, and I was cracking up right from the beginning when you were talking about like the hotel room and the crack and only being in the bathroom, because I went through a period of time when I did crack. I called it the worst year I ever spent in the bathroom, because I ever left, just stayed in the bathroom for a whole year. It was just crazy.
And the people you meet along the road.
I can't believe you drove. That just blows my mind. Like
that don't bother me. You know, right. I don't know. I was paranoid, you know, like driving down the highway with my knee, like leaning under the door, tilting it up, you know, trying to not spill anything. My other boy would heat it up. I'm like, you're wasting it. Look at all the smoke coming out of it. I'm like, just bend down, you know. I was like, you know, very conservative.
Right. Oh my goodness. Okay. So you get sober, and tell me, what was your pathway? Did you do 12 steps? Did you go through treatment? What was it?
Yes. So I went to detox, residential, only stayed for detox. My insurance wouldn't pay for any more. I had an Affordable Care Act policy, so they kind of did the bare minimum, which I'm grateful for. Mind you, I'd been using Suboxone for a year, not prescribed by a doctor. You know, I was never prescribed by a doctor. I always just bought it off the street. It was cheaper. In Baltimore, it was like, back then they were like $2.50, $5 a piece. You know, Lexington Market. Is Lexington Market? Yeah, Lexington Market. I can't remember. It's been a while. But so yeah, and I went to treatment, to PHP. I detoxed off of the Suboxone in PHP. I would remember waking up in the middle of the night like I had just used. I wasn't waking up crying because I just used. I was waking up crying because I wanted more. And I didn't have it. And it felt like I just used, but like worse. And I stuck it out because where am I going to go? I'm in Florida. You know, I'm like, I got no money. There is no option. Like, I know there's no option. I've tried this before and I knew that there was no option. I'd never tried it in Florida though. And really removed myself from all that. I didn't get my car right away. I actually went to an IOP that was related with the PHP, got kicked out of the IOP because I was insane, like insane. And I would do anything that somebody told me to do, you know, because like I wanted everybody to like me, think I was funny, think I was crazy. Like that still carried along with me. But at the same time, I was vulnerable. I took certain suggestions, like helping other people with things, no matter what it was, just helping, doing the dishes, not telling anybody I did the dishes, just doing things without the intention to receive anything back. And then going to meetings. And then I went through the 12 steps. I went through the 12 steps NA. Then I recently went through the 12 steps AA, well, last year, 2 years ago. And I'm getting ready to go back through my steps again. And, you know, I was going to, and I found a sponsor, and he passed me down to a sponsee, and I was going to do it with them until they asked me to write down something. I had just read this book, Think and Grow Rich, and it changed my life. I'd never read a book before until like, okay, so NA and AA, I didn't really read the book by myself. My sponsor helped me read the book. Like I'd never sat down by myself and read a book, right? Like wanting to read a book. And I had, and that's never happened. And like when I tell you that I've never read a book, I have never done a book report. I have never done homework. I have never passed a test in school. I was in special ed most of my life, so I was passed through. The reason I dropped out of 10th grade is because I was held back. That's when I moved to Delaware. Delaware don't let you pass with failing grades because they don't have special ed. Pennsylvania does. They just push you through and you just learn along the way. But you carry those grades with you into community college or tech, whatever you go to. And which I think is great. But because like I'm not inclined that way. And I didn't understand everything out of this book the first time I read it, and I'm reading it again. And they asked me to write down what, so this is good for people that are like first coming around, right? But they're asking me to write down, and all my fears have come true in recovery after writing it down. But at the same time, I felt like that is the reason why all my fears came true, because I was expecting it. I was manifesting it. It was happening. It was in my subconscious mind all the time. I was feared up all the time. I ended it. I ended the cycle by telling them, no, I'm not going to write down on a piece of paper, if this happens, I'll get high. I won't write that down. I'm not doing it again. There's no way, you know, and I just don't agree with it. And they do things a little different than other sponsee families, which is great for those people that want to do that or first come around. And he was my second sponsor in NA that I was going to go through my steps for, stopped working with him because of like, this is why it's good not to become best friends with your sponsor, because you're going to see stuff that you don't like, that you don't agree with, and you're going to talk yourself out of going through the steps with them. And then you're going to search around. Luckily, I had already had my first sponsor that I was at my fourth step with. But the reason I switched was because he lived an hour away, and driving every week was frustrating. So I sucked it up and just did it again and went back to him. But I seen my second sponsor doing things that I didn't agree with women, and I stopped working with him. And then this happened again, and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, I'm content and I'm happy. So, you know, I was going through a lot, but I am going to go through my steps again, probably in AA. So this is how I was taught. NA, the step work is therapeutic. AA, the step work is spiritual. And I want to become more spiritual because you can always grow. There's always room for improvement, but life has removed a lot of my character defects this time around. It was either remove the character defects by showing up for yourself every day or get high or just kill yourself, you know, which at 4 years, I did want to kill myself because I was in a relationship that I wasn't happy with. The work I was doing, I wasn't happy with. My ego go had ran me to the door. I was, starting to lose things, lost my driver's license. Well, was getting to the point of losing my driver's license. I hadn't yet. And I was just ready to I was just depressed. I wasn't working on myself. I was stagnant. I wasn't helping anybody. I was just doing what I wanted to do, racing four-wheelers, playing video games, not doing anything, a lot of money, and just miserable. You know what it was that I put expectations on how that would feel to have that money and have that lifestyle, being able to do this and being able to do that. Wasn't enjoyable at all, because my expectations always exceed the actual realness of the problem, right? Like the scenario. And yeah, I mean, I'd go to a race, four-wheeler would be perfectly fine. This is towards that time of me being depressed. And my anger wasn't bad, like hasn't been very controlled. But at that time I went to a race, I got one lap in and my quad stopped running. And it's 3 laps, it's 39 miles, it's a 2.5 hour race. I hadn't even went 40 minutes and I drove 3 hours or 4 hours to this race in North Florida. And I was just defeated. I took my $400 helmet and I just started beating as everybody's racing flies by me, I'm just beating the front end of this brand new hood that I just put on my Honda, this brand new carbon fiber hood. I'm just beating it with my helmet, breaking my helmet. And all my boys were like, that's not cool, dude. Like, why are you doing that? And they were like really disappointed in me. I'm like, wow. I'm like, what's wrong with me? I'm like, wow, yeah, there's something wrong with me. I shouldn't have done that. Like, who cares? It's just a race. Like, I should have showed up and supported my boys. Instead, I was like, F this, F that, I was just unhappy. I wasn't living for me. I was doing what I thought everyone wanted me to do, And
yeah. That's so crazy, because you can go through all these things. Like, I love how you talked about the NA steps being therapeutic. So that's the exact order I did mine too. I did NA steps first, which was so much writing. It was like so much writing, but like I found that in all that writing, it helped me to be able to get all that stuff out of me. Yeah. And then I did AA steps, which for me, very spiritual. And then I did Celebrate Recovery steps, which was those were really good too. Next, I want to look at Double Trouble. Do you guys have Double Trouble out there? Which
is not that.
Dual diagnosis, mental health, and substance use disorder.
Oh, so wow.
They have their own set of steps. Yeah.
They need to have that out here. Because Florida is one of the recovery capitals of the world. It's sad to say this, but from working in treatment for so long, kids without substance abuse problems get sent here by their parents because they can't deal with them anymore because they're schizophrenic or they're just this or that. And the treatment facilities will take them. And not being primary mental health, substance abuse secondary, but being substance abuse primary, mental health secondary, which means you have bare minimum mental health help for like people that have uncontrolled mental health, right? That only use because of their mental health. There's people that get mental health, and then there's people that have mental health and use. And then there's people that just have strictly mental health, and that's all here. And they just get passed through the circle. They just get passed through the circle, passed through the circle, passed through the circle. And there's a kid that I know right now that's still down here, that has been down here since I've been down here. And I know he doesn't have a substance abuse problem, who drinks just to get into a facility because he's homeless, and doesn't want to be homeless because he's from Jersey, and he has a good insurance policy that in treatment facilities will just keep taking him. And it's sad, and I hate that. And I've left working at programs because I've seen that, whether my bills were going to get paid or not. I'm like, I'm not going to be a part of it. I know it won't. Me leaving you is not going to impact it, but it's going to impact me more if I stay here, right? Like I'm not leaving because I think you're going to close, but I'm leaving because I know that I don't feel right now that you've done this, you know?
So you see a lot of the body brokering there.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. So I used to see it a lot and hear it a lot. Now I don't, because I haven't been in the treatment industry in over a year now, but it's been a while, and I don't drive. So I've been removed from that life, and in the beginning it was really good for me. Not the body broker, none of that, but like the showing up for people at 3 a.m., being able to, right? Because I guess I was getting paid to show up for people. That's basically how I looked at it. And like, I wouldn't have been able to show up for people like I did if I was working construction 60 hours a week. I wouldn't have been able to sit down with 5 or 6 sponsees every single day if I was working construction. I wouldn't have been able to take 30 kids to 4 different meetings in a day if I was, I wouldn't have been able to sit down and have groups with kids. I wouldn't have been able to come to the facility every single day at 4:30 and sit till 9:30 and help them in their first 30 days get through a little bit of the book, and all those things saved my life, man. I got through my step work in NA. It took me like 8 months, fully 8 months. Can't remember. But yeah, I pretty much started sponsoring guys after I got through my 4th step in NA, So, and then I recently went through my steps in AA like 3 years ago.
So it sounds like service is a pathway for you. It's kind of like your love language in recovery, like how you stay sober, how you give back. So that's awesome. That's one of mine too, which is why I try to like stay involved. They say stay in the middle of the boat.
Yeah.
For me is huge. So, okay. Last question. What advice would you give to a newcomer?
Like one thing? Like one main thing, or like 4 or 5 things? Which one?
Go ahead.
Go ahead? All right. Take suggestions, like the basic suggestions, just in life, like what suggestions are right and wrong. Helping others is one of those. Show up for people, regardless if they're in recovery or not. Don't go and pick up your boy who's smoking crack or shooting heroin and try and get him in somewhere, or don't sit with them until they go somewhere. Don't pick them up and give them a ride. Don't do any of that. I don't care how close you guys think you are, because you're pretty much saying that, like, I'm gonna do this and I think it's worth me dying over, and it's not, because then both of you be dead. And just find your people in the program, or whatever program you're in. Raise your hand, go to IOP, right? Like, utilize the resources that are around you, the program that you're in. Talk about your actual feelings and your problems. Don't be afraid of judgment. And watch what people say and not what they do, really, because I know sometimes I'm really good at telling somebody what to do, but then at the same time, it's hard for me to do those things, because it's hard for everyone to do those things. If they were easy, everybody would be doing it. So, like, that's a big thing. Like, don't put your sponsor or your sober coach or whoever, like, on a pedestal, because life shows up for everyone. And, like, just keep it simple. Just keep it real simple. There's no mathematics to this. It's very basic. Awesome. Great advice from Rob Meredith. Thank you so much, Rob. And Thank
Are
you.
you only on the Facebook platform, or are you on the other social media platforms?
I'm on Facebook, TikTok. I used to do Twitch, like gaming. But because I sell life insurance all day, and then I do the videos, I just haven't had it in me. I ride my bike every single morning, so like everywhere I gotta go, really, I ride my bicycle. So that physically I'm drained by now. And then, you know, I put a lot of what I got of me, like energy and whatever. I believe that like the energy I put into my video, other people are gonna take from it and it'll help them, regardless of what it even says, really. And like, if I'm playing my video game and streaming, right? People are watching me for 2 or 3 hours. I don't have it in me to give them anything good. And I set it up for them to come and like pop and whatever. But mainly I'm just doing that right now. Just that.
Cool. So we can find you on Facebook and on TikTok.
As
Awesome.
recovering Rob. on
Recovering
TikTok.
Rob. Awesome. I will put all those links in the description so you guys can figure out where to follow Rob. Make sure you follow all of his posts and make sure you subscribe to Jamietall on YouTube. And we will see you next time on Recovery Inspired Hope.